With over a decade of podcasting together, our Camp Code team has learned so much from one another. With Beth not here this week, we decided to dedicate this episode to you, Beth Allison, and highlight some of our favorite Beth practices.
Running camp should be about people, not paperwork. UltraCamp helps you manage staff, registration, and communication in one place, so you spend less time on tasks and more on camp. Find out more at ultracampmanagement.com/campcode.
Welcome to Camp Code, a podcast brought to you by Go Camp Pro. Just like people grow and change, so does our industry. Each and every year, there are new challenges, new ways of handling situations, new advice from those doing the work, and new ideas to share. Our commitment to intentional leadership training has only grown stronger. Here on Camp Code, we do all that we can to help you develop your best ever leadership training. And before we get started on our topic, we're going to do a round of introductions. Kate, will you start us off, please?
For sure. Hi, my name is Kate Taylor, and I am currently a consultant with Stéphane Richard Development Consulting.
Awesome. And Gabrielle?
Hey everybody, my name's Gabs. My pronouns are she, her, and I am one of the camp directors at Camp Waro, which is an all-girls camp that provides a positive community for girls and gender minorities.
And I'm Ruby Compton. I am the Chief Exploration Officer of Ruby Outdoors. My company supports camps and outdoor programs across the United States and in Canada too. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm based in Western North Carolina in the heart of the Blue Ridge Mountains. Well, while we are sad to not have Beth here today, we thought we would like to spend a little time highlighting some of our favorite Beth-isms and things that we've learned from her and maybe even implemented from her over the years. So we're going to start with you, Kate. Tell us something that you have learned from Beth.
Oh, I remember that, honestly, the first time I met Beth, which was a bajillion years ago, I won't say how many, for the best of all of us, I wanted to be her when I grew up. That was definitely the impression that I got. She was coming in to do some leadership training with the leadership team at Waro, where I was working at the time. And she really made me feel like, that was the type of leadership that I wanted to emulate for sure. And one of the things that I appreciated the most about her methods was that it was very much about finding the strengths of yourself and putting those into practice. So that empowerment, the self-empowerment that I got out of the practices that she did, because all of her techniques are really focused on making sure that your staff are not just doing as they're told, but that they are going to be able to make their own decisions because they are developing their own judgment in the moment. So you're giving them the tools that they need to, when they're in that situation, they're empowered to make that decision. They're not running to check with you all the time as the director.
Incredible. Awesome. Thanks for kicking this off, Kate. Next up, we're going to go to Gabs.
Yes. So my Beth practice, it goes actually really nicely with what you said, Kate, is one of the things that herself and Travis talk about, which is her partner and also Go Camp Pro founder, is people before programs. And they created a really great tool to help process, is this a good idea or maybe not? So we found this really great little graph, but it's called the 4 S's. And we reference it a lot on Camp Code, but I thought maybe we can break it down a little bit. So the example we have here is, can I take my campers cliff diving? Or there's others like, can we prank the leadership members, et cetera, et cetera. So we'll go with cliff diving. The first S is safe. Is it safe? I love this. This is very Beth. Beside it says no. And then if it's not safe, then no, you may not. But if it is safe, so perhaps it's a practice that happens at the camp often, then that goes to the next S. Is it good stewardship for the environment? If yes, to the third S, does it build the person's self-esteem? And then, so if there's a camper that's really nervous and there's peer pressure here, this is a really good guide for a young staff member to see it's not building everybody's self-esteem. And then last S is, are you being a servant to others? So are you supporting people? So that goes with the people before program mantra that they have. And this, the four S's has inspired at Waro our own version of the four S's. And I will say that we pretty much have the same ones. The one that has been the most powerful has been the self-esteem. Is it lifting other people up? It's been a wonderful tool.
Amazing. Yeah, I'm going to throw out there another very foundational piece of just about anything and everything that I see Beth Allison do, and that is be intentional. Be intentional. And she is so good at thinking from start to finish. The idea of starting at the end, this is how I want them to feel at the end, and what is the journey to get there, and kind of building that from that grand finale, or that moment they walk away from training. I think she always does a really incredible job of kind of tying the beginning and the end together, which is a genius way to
Yes.
help us make learning more sticky, because it's like all wrapped in this nice little package. And having worked with Beth on lots of presentations and trainings, the attention to every little detail, thinking about what are these transitions going to look like and sound like and feel like? What is the song? And it's not just what song, but it's like what version of this song and what part of this song that has the lyrics that completely match with what is going on. It's amazing, and has pushed me to be more intentional in so much of what I do. And, I am lucky that I have gotten to work with Beth for over a decade, and excuse me. And I forget that not everybody else operates that way, because she has taught me so well and taught so many people around me so well. So that very intentionality it's just ruthless and consistent, and I love it.
It is ruthless and consistent. And in French, we call that un fil conducteur, which is basically a conducting a wire that like conducts electricity. It's sounds more romantic in French, I think. But I think Beth does that exceptionally well, where she knows where she's going to end up. So she starts at the beginning, and and there's multiple beginnings and ends. So she has her staff training day might have a beginning and end, but her whole staff training will have a beginning and end, and then camp will have an entire beginning and end. So, and she really has those themes, sometimes subtly and not so subtly, but both are just so important.
Yeah. A true wow factor where you get to the end and you go, it's sort of happened. It's so cool. It's so cool. All right, we're going to pause for our best practices for right now and hear a word from our sponsor.
For Camp Code listeners, unlock Ultra Camp's operations checklist for new directors, a free download to help you prepare for a smooth season. Find it at ultracampmanagement.com/campcode. Running camp comes with countless moving parts. Ultra Camp helps you stay on top of them. Organize activities and daily schedules, manage wait lists and cabin assignments, automate billing and payments, centralize all camper and staff info in one place. With UltraCamp, camp operations run smoother, so directors can lead with confidence. Book your free customized demo at ultracampmanagement.com/campcode.
And we are back with more of our Beth practices from our lovely co-host, Beth Allison, who is not here today, but we want to honor some of our lessons learned from her. So, Kate, what's another lesson that you've learned from working with Beth Allison?
Well, so I had the opportunity this past year and a bit to be working with her very closely on the Women in Camp leadership team in the community builders section. So I got to really see her vision and mission that was built into the founding of the Women in Camp Summit, as she's been the community builder from the start. And one of the pieces that it's really tied into so much of my practice as a camp professional in general, but it really came clear over this past year, was the front loading concept. So the concept of front loading is definitely something that I learned from Beth, and I have heard it being used, trickled out a little bit, but I feel like Beth is one of the people that thinks about it the most intentionally, for sure, and puts it into practice very, very well. So the concept is anything that you want to have your participants or your staff or whoever it is coming in on day one already knowing, you need to front load that. So start at the beginning with, here are all the things that I want you to already know as you set foot into this. Or, in the more like bite-sized portion, when you're setting up each training. So if you have like an hour and a half long training, you want to front load that training with, here are all the things that you're going to learn in this training and why it's important and why you should be paying attention for the next hour and a half of my time that I'm giving you. So that message of like, this is why it matters, this is why it counts, this is why we feel you should know this. That whole piece has been really, really helpful in helping me develop my trainings and making sure that the staff are, giving a crap about what I'm talking to them about, essentially.
Oh, so true. And again, that primes the brain for learning, right? Like, what filing cabinet do I put this in? If we tell them a little bit more about that ahead of time, they're more likely to be able to recall that information later. Awesome. Gabs, how about you?
I'll tag on with that is when you're talking about the vision and mission and the front loading. Beth has a whole program of reverse engineering. And so she looks at what does she want the campers to look like, sound like, feel like on the last day of camp. What do you want to see from staff members on their last day of camp? And then she creates that list, that glorious, massive list of what are all the things that we need to do. And I think that we often we can get very, very stuck in the details of, staff hiring right now and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I've just from doing podcasts with her for so many years, it is one of our first to-dos that we do post camp after our post-mortem. We look at next year, what is our hopes? Why do we want this? And what are the things that we need to do? So that little piece for me. And I think just as a little side note, team, the reason why we also want to do this for Beth is that when Ruby and I and Beth started doing the Camp Code podcast, we had this, I remember exactly where we were. We're at a conference. We were sitting down in this massive hallway, dreaming about Camp Code. We didn't even have really a name yet. We were trying to come up with names. But the one thing we did love as a concept right from the beginning was around Robin of saying 1 point each on the topic. And I remember my first podcast with Beth, she had under 1 point, at least 10 sub points. And so I think she has all of this wonderful information because she starts at the end and she says, here's all the things that you can do to get there.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely over deliver. Like,
yes.
Hey, we talked in my last podcast about like, say you're going to do something and do it. And Beth
Yeah.
Allison does. And
Doesn't, yes.
she's still reliable on that way. I want to share a little bit about one of my favorite activities, training activities that I got from Beth. And I don't remember exactly how she ran it, but one of the things that I think she's particularly good at and was particularly good at as a camp director was maintaining that 10,000 foot view and kind of being able to step back and be like the person behind the curtain, right? Who is paying attention to what's going on and maybe a gentle nudge here or a conversation there, but not a micromanager, is really able to like watch staff do what they need to do, but remain active and present, but giving space for folks to do what they need to do. And I think specifically about a training activity they did one year where they would build a town, different parts of the town, and they relate, like, so the staff during training would build this town, and then they'd all kind of step back to that 10,000 foot view and talk about how all these different elements work together to make that town exist and how those different elements also are at camp, right? And I took that idea and we ended up building a scaled model of camp one year. And that was, for us, was a way to get the staff to use their creativity, for them to get to know camp a little bit better. And we also challenged them, like, don't just tell me about, the block that you glued beads on that represents our climbing tower and like actually represents it really, really well. But, how does that fit into the 10,000 foot view of camp? If you're up here in the airplane, like flying around. And it was one of my most favorite training sessions we ever did because the conversation that happened around it the creativity that was found, the learning that got to happen between staff where they were sharing like, oh, this is what this place is, or this is how it's used, or here's a story I have from that place. It was just so fun and cool. And we ended up with this like beautiful, representation of camp that we got to like sit and study and talk about. And I kind of like hated when we had to take it apart at the end.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's so cool.
But something I never would have thought of had Beth not shared that idea of like, yeah, we built a town. And, like we actually like built a town in the dining hall. Like, that's really stinking cool.
It's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. I love
She
that.
she led that for us at camp too, and it was they got to come up with what they wanted to build, and they had to present to us what they wanted to build, and we did get a cemetery was one of them. And I was like, interesting. They didn't know why they were building it, but then afterwards we debriefed. And so I remember Beth, when she led it, she said, this is the place where we bury some grievances, we bury our frustration. And she said, but we have to deal with it first, right? She said, there's always a ceremony. So that's a conversation. That's but we have to hold grief. Sometimes things don't go the way we want them to go. And so she had framed that the cemetery as a metaphor, and it really hit home for a lot of my staff.
That's a really cool metaphor. I like that a lot.
Yeah, it was great. I was wondering where we were going to go with the cemetery, and Beth was like, I love this. I was like, great. I'm glad you know what you're doing. I'm interested in seeing where this is going to go.
Amazing, amazing. All right, let's do one more round of Beth practices. Kate, what's on your list?
Well, so I've always appreciated Beth's like model of servant leadership. The good stewardship part of the 4S test definitely models that. But one of her leadership exercises that she has done is like, what are we doing to care for our people? So making up your list of what are we equipping them with? How are we what things are we supporting them on? How are we clearing obstacles? Like those are sort of the three buckets that you're grouping things into, but this is how we are caring for our people. Because when you move from when you move from camper to staff member, you have to go through that process of letting things go, and now I'm the one making magic for the campers, et cetera, et cetera. And then when you move from being a frontline staff to being a leadership team, you go through a whole other process of like, okay, how am I now going to care for my kids that are my staff? And I really think that Beth's model of doing that, it takes away the leadership-itis that some people sometimes get, where they get into that first supervisory role and it goes to their head and they get all power trippy and throwing their weight around and stuff. If you start from how are you caring about your staff, it really builds that model of I am here to support you. You are going to do the job for the kids, and have that sort of like bottom-up approach to the camp model.
Yeah, I think in one of her staff surveys even had like their favorite snacks. And then they did like a bulk purchase at the beginning of the season. And then throughout the summer would just sort of on the side be like, hey, here you go. And it'd be like a bag of Doritos or, Japanese pear or whatever. Like and it's
the little touches of like, I see you, I notice you, I know what is important to you.
Yeah.
I'm here to make that happen for you.
Yeah.
So great. It's so great. All right, Gabs, give us another one, please.
So, I mean, there's so many, and we're talking a lot about Beth's like, thoughtfulness and behind the scenes. I think one of the harder things to do, especially during staff training, and it's kind of it is the most important thing to do, is connect with your staff. And Travis and Beth, but I spoke with Beth a lot about it, really made it a point to sit down at least 2 out of the 3 meals during staff training. And that boggled my mind. I was like, how? I was kind of like, the kids are fine, they're eating. Okay, go. Let's like get some work done. Obviously, organization takes is a thing, but like stuff happens. And I'm gonna be honest, I'm not sitting twice. I haven't gotten there yet. But I am in there for most of it. And I try to go around to each table and sit a little bit. Also, I have a little bit of a hard time, like just sitting for an entire meal. Like, what are we doing? But the thing is that she's chosen a time in the day where she's going to be fully present, and she doesn't have an agenda except for to connect. And I think it's really hard when you have the weight of camp on your shoulders and you have all these emails and you have all of these elements. But the relationships that you're going to have with your staff members is what's going to help you through the tough times, and it's going to prevent other tough times. And so I've really tried to take that lesson and use it in my own way that fits my own personality, which is usually like later in the evening playing games with the staff. That works for me. But she really puts that I need to be present more than perfect in my session.
Yeah, amazing. It's such a good reminder too. That,
Totally.
that presence
Totally.
of mind can be really challenging as a director.
Oh gosh, yes. And it's helpful, right? Like
Yeah.
I went and played, I don't know what video game. There was something on an iPad. Anyways, it was going around. I don't know. But like the fact that I was so confused was a joy in the staff. And it's because I couldn't listen to the rules. It wasn't complicated. I just kept getting distracted and they're like, pay attention. But I was present. I was myself. We had a good time. It's hard to do as a camp director, but I learned that from Beth, and it's helped me out.
Well, and I think that like the more you demonstrate who you really are as a person, it allows for that. I think we were talking about in our last episode of transparency of like, this is
Yeah.
actually who I am. I'm
Yeah.
not, faking that I'm not listening to the rules when
Yes.
someone's reading the rules. I genuinely can't listen to the rules. So like, this is just who I am. And I'm going to do my best to work around that. But, I am going to be this way. And,
Yeah.
Beth is modeling like, I genuinely care about you. I want to hear about your day and I want to listen to it. And so, when you come to me with those little problems that you have about camp, I am going to listen and I'm going
Yeah.
to help you deal with it. I'm going to be with you, alongside you, working together on that. It gives that sort of authenticity to your
Mhm.
leadership.
100%.
Yeah, you said all that, and it made me think about the number of times I've been on Zoom calls with Beth and crying. Like,
Oh yeah. That's just
she does such a good job
yes.
back. Like, this is, like, here is you've lost sight of, like, this is who you are, not the crying.
Mm.
That is part of me too, but like, here's this thing that don't forget this about yourself. And I think that that's much easier to collect about our staff and understand about our staff when we are having those moments like you all are describing. So it's so good. So good. I have one more, and
Yeah.
this one might be a little controversial.
Oh.
So Beth was a True Colors facilitator,
Yeah.
and I
What
can't
is true
believe it.
colors?
This is a personality assessment. There are so many different kind of assessments out there that help describe varieties of personalities and kind of categorize them. There's Enneagram, there's DISC. That was my personal favorite. There's, just all kinds of stuff. There's, the houses of Harry Potter, I would argue, is also a personality assessment in a lot of ways, right? So whatever is your personality assessment of choice, I actually think that is a really useful tool for helping folks understand some categories and like motivations of people. Not that we should be putting people in boxes, but sometimes when you are interacting with somebody who does something so differently from how you do, those personality assessments help you see another side and gain perspective other than just, that's weird, that doesn't work, it's my way or the highway, right? And so creating some sort of shared language around, this is what I need to be supported, this is how I operate, this is what motivates me, this is how frustration shows up. I think that's really powerful. And with all of those systems, like, I am one of those people who will often test really blurry in a lot of those systems, where some people are like very strongly something in any given personality assessment, and other times you're like, God, this person who's just kind of like is a shapeshifter, and they will move around. And that's also valuable information to know. Like, that is a valuable resource to have as well. But I know as a staff member and also as a manager, having some sort of shared language around personality and preferences and support can be really useful. And how that looks is going to look really different at every single camp and every population. And just like read into whatever assessments you're looking into, because some of them don't have the greatest backgrounds, I'll say. But just look into that. But I think that having that is some sort of system is really, really useful. So something to consider.
I also found when we did those kind of things, one of the powerful moments of that was also finding your people. So,
Yeah.
getting a chance to chit chat with the other people that tested similarly to you and were in your category to help you put into words like what it is that we as this category need in certain things. It was always an opportunity for someone else would say, oh, I really need this when I'm getting feedback. And I'd be like, oh, I never thought of that. That sounds like, yes, I would like that too, please. It really helped me sort of figure out some ways to verbalize what it is I needed at work.
One of the best questions, well, she front loaded. Not everybody's going to agree with their assessment, and that's okay. That's something to talk about because we're just using it as a tool to get to know each other. So if there's something in this you don't agree with, let us know so we understand you better. But one of the questions that stood out for me the most was when she had clumped us in our similar colors. And one of those questions was, what's something that other people misunderstand about you? And then as a team, we talked about it and just hearing there was like this sort of like very organized group. And that group was just like, you guys, we do like to have fun. We just need to know what the plan is first. And it was just like, I was like, as a younger staff member, I was like, oh, I do think you don't want to have fun.
Yeah. Or I'm not, you were being a buzzkill.
Yeah. Or on my end, it was like, we do take things seriously. It's just sometimes some things are funny, but and we're sorry for that. But it's like we do. So that was so how she framed these things. It wasn't we're in these boxes. It was like these are tools for conversation, and that was just wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah. Super clutch right there.
Hmm.
All right. Anybody have any others?
Well, I mean, we talked about it in our brainstorming phase, but I don't think anyone actually took it upon themselves to use it as a point. Acronyms.
Yeah.
If it doesn't have an acronym, why are you even bothering to teach it? That is Beth in show right there.
Beth and show acronyms.
Because it really does help it to stick in people's brains when you summarize something into a digestible number of points anyway.
Yeah.
And if you take the digestible number of points and turn it into an acronym that is pronounceable is very helpful.
Yeah.
Michael Brandywine uses it as well. The WIBIT thing has always stuck in my brain because it's a pronounceable acronym, and I love those.
Yes, and Beth has inspired ACT, SAS, VIP. These are all things that we use at Waro, DARE. Those are all acronyms that you can, or the 4S's is not pronounceable, but you can, it's very easy to remember. So inclusive learning is high up on her list. Any way to get information to people, top goal for Beth.
I will say I have a delegation session that I lead.
Yeah.
That has an acronym, but it's not a good acronym. Like it kind of
On
looks like an
purpose?
eye chart, actually.
Oh,
Right. Right. And so I just poke fun at how ridiculous it is. I mean, it has a question mark in it, but it's in the middle. So it's like OZAP we question mark D, right? Like not memorable.
I love that.
But that gets it the knowledge in for sure.
And that was
Well,
also
I'm still learning from Beth on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's also always a struggle when you're in a bilingual environment like Waro, trying to come up with something that is an acronym that works in both languages.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Mind blown.
Oh boy.
Yes. Like DARE also
DARE,
is like the
it
anti-drug
actually
program.
worked.
I understand. And I've been told that. I get it. But try to do it in French. OZ and DARE are the same words, and we can do the acronyms. We're leaving it. It's staying.
It just is what it is.
Bilingual
We
kid.
just have to keep learning from the queen of the acronyms. So
She's the queen.
all right, Gabs, I believe it is time.
Recap. Okay, so what it really comes down to is shockingly, but not so much, with our good pal Beth, intentional leadership is at the heart of everything that she does. And the first way that she always starts and talks is, what is your mission and vision? And Kate was so great at pointing that out to us. Now, when you're looking at your mission and your visions, you want to look at the end. Start at the end. Ask yourself, what do you want to see? What do you want to hear? What do you want to feel at the end of camp, and build backwards. And the way that Beth does that is many different ways, but one of it is using our fil conducteur, or planning out themes throughout training and camp, etc., the day. And she's making sure that this theme is being recalled back to the staff so they can retain it. Now, some of these cool tools that she uses is sessions such as building a town, which was something that I got to experience. It was fantastic. Doing things like shared language on personalities, and equipping the staff with feeling like we care for them. Some of her personal philosophies are presence over perfection, and also people before programs. Beth, at her heart, is a relationship builder. She builds connections, and that's why it's easy to talk about Beth and show.
It's so good. It's just a delight. Well, we want to hear what some of your Beth in show practices are. Did that work? I don't know.
I loved it.
Yeah, there we go. So please use the hashtag camp code on your social media platform of choice to tell us what you thought about this episode. We'd love to hear any guests that we should have on, any leadership training tips that you have to share. Remember that we are all about sharing in this industry, and we would love to hear from you. Speaking of, we want you to know if you can get in touch with us. So, Kate, how can folks find you?
The best way at the moment is to use my work email, which is kate@stephanereichard.ca. And that's STEPHANE, Richard like Richard.ca.
Great. And Gabs?
You can check out where I work at waro.com, and you can get in touch with me at info@waro.com, OUAREAU.
And you can email me, ruby@rubyoutdoors.com, or follow me on the gram at Ruby Outdoors. Right on. So our last piece of our show is our best practice, but today that's going to be the Beth practice. And I have it today. So we're going to continue on our theme of things that Beth does and says. And this one is a really specific one. So she'll give a training session or want to highlight a specific point and has this phrase, "Let me be perfectly clear." And she makes sure to separate that out from, like period, space. Let me be perfectly clear. And then continues on with whatever it is. This is a great teaching technique for repeating information that is key, but also highlighting and helping curate for our staff. This is like, if you remember nothing else, this is the key take home. This is the headline. This is what you need to make sure you remember. And then we've all experienced it when the staff go, "You didn't tell us that in staff training." Well, this will help. You're still going to have it, but it will help deal with that a little bit more. So that's our
And I think she explicitly uses it about firing staff too. And she's like, "Let me make myself perfectly clear. You will be fired if." But she does it. And I think when I was a young camp professional and I still was threading the line of I didn't want to seem too harsh to my staff, I needed to hear her say, "I say this because it keeps them from losing their job and it keeps camp safe." And I never really thought about the losing job part. Like, I was like, she's like, "You don't want them to be confused about that." So, but she also has a very good stern face when she wants to put it on. It's like, "Ooh, I'm paying attention." Yeah.
So also practice
Serious
your
time.
stern face.
Yeah. Practice your stern face. Yeah. It needs to go with it.
And it needs to not be your face all the time. There's got to be some contrast otherwise.
Only for those small moments. Beth, we love you.
Balance of warmth, and I'm taking things seriously now, for sure.
Exactly. We love you, Beth. You have so much more knowledge than what we gave you today, but thanks for being part of this podcast. And I hope we get to do part 2.
Amazing. Well, thanks for being here, friends. Kate, especially thanks for joining us and filling in some big shoes as we have talked about all day today. So we really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
And Camp Code is part of the Go Camp Pro podcast network. Check out all of our other podcasts at gocamp.pro/podcasts. From all of us here at Camp Code, thanks for the listening, friends.